Yes guys, welcome back to another one. Today we're going to be doing a little Q&A about the ICT silver bullet. Now, that was highly requested in my DMs, doing a Q&A about the ICT silver bullet. Now I haven't done ever a direct Q&A from you guys just about the strategy in general and just straight trading and maybe some psychology as well. So I picked a few questions and let's just get straight to it. So the first one I've got is, what time window does the ICT silver bullet strategy focus on for entries? So the silver bullet, right, there is a macro basically every hour. Every 30-minute window there is a macro. But there are three high probability windows that I would recommend trading, and that's the first AM macro at 9:45, 10:15 New York local time, 10:45 to 11:15, and then you have the lunch macro, which is 11:45 to 12:15. Now the next macro after that I wouldn't advise trading it, but it's definitely tradable in my opinion, is the PM session, and that's 1:45 to 2:15. There are a lot of good trades that come across in that one, and usually what would happen inside these macros is that you have one will be good, one will be dead, then the lunch may possibly be good, or the lunch will be boring as well, then the PM session will have something good. So it really depends on the day, but those three, the 2 AMs and the lunch, is what I'd recommend. How does the strategy define liquidity, and what type of liquidity pools does it target? Buy side, sell side. Okay, I don't get what this guy's saying at the end. But so what price is trying to target? So price is always obviously, you know, going for liquidity, previous session highs, previous session lows, which is why before New York Open you always want to mark out each session high. So we're talking London highs, London lows, Asia highs, Asia lows. It's as simple as that. And you want to look for one of these points to get swept, and preferably you want to align this with the higher time frame. So if you say you have a bullish bias for the day and then you have a sweep of London lows, then you have a daily bullish bias on the higher time frame, so you'd want to look for a lower time frame model to take longs and target buy side liquidity. It's as simple as that. So what I would also put in my plan is that once a point of session liquidity gets taken, so we're talking Asia highs, Asia lows, London lows, or previous day high, previous day low, the New York Open, any 15-minute high or low, or 5 to 15-minute high or low, depending on what it's paired with, say a bearish fair value gap, would be valid as a liquidity sweep. So I would then use that to determine my bias as well, say if we're inside the second AM macro. What is ideal market structure, bullish / bearish setup before entering a trade? The ideal market structure is you want to have a sweep of liquidity. So this can be a point of minor buy side, minor sell side, or session liquidity. The higher the time frame sweep, the higher probability it has, the stronger that draw is. So say if you swept the previous day high, there's a very high probable chance that price will run lower. You want to see a sweep of liquidity, then you would want to see a point of buy stops or sell stops being taken out, so a short-term high or a short-term low. Then you'd want to see a market structure shift, depending on if you're going long or short, so higher or lower. And this is a clean shift lower, so you'd want to see a candle closure below that previous swing high or swing low. And we're not talking no little closure below. I mean, that is valid, but it's not the cleanest. But if you see a really sharp displacement, you will know what that looks like if you've done your back testing, your forward testing, and you actually trade the silver bullet. Then you'd want to see a bearish fair value gap present itself, and that bearish fair value gap or bullish fair value gap paired with either a breaker block, a mitigation block, or an order block, because then the fair value gap actually has context. Because if you're taking any odd fair value gaps, there are thousands of fair value gaps being formed a day, formed a year, formed a whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of those, most of those, 90% of those, 80% of those get ran through. Like hardly ever do they even get respected. So you want to take the highest probable. This fucking car's ruining my video, bro. You want to take the highest probable fair value gaps to ensure that there's a high chance your trade plays out. Okay, so we've got a question about risk management. So how do you set your stop loss and take profit in a silver bullet setup? So the way I would do it is I always tend to go from absolute maximum 30-point stop loss. So that would only be if price is super volatile. If we're in the summer months, say now when we're in August, or from May, June, July, those less volatile months, you would need a stop loss for around 20-25 handles. And a lot of the months I've even had stop losses which are like 10-15 points. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, what the fuck, why are you having a 10-point stop loss? But I only risk to the previous short-term high. And when the price is not that volatile and the candles are like couple points each, you don't need to be risking that much, but maximum 25-30 handles. So then you're ensuring you're risking the same amount each time, and the only thing that varies would be your target. So let's say if you're going for a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 3, or if price is more volatile, then you're targeting 60 handles instead of 30 handles. And then depending on that, I wouldn't recommend changing your position size just because you're risking less, because yes, you want to be risking the same dollar amount, but just because your maximum stop loss is 30 handles does not mean you should be risking 30 handles every single time, because then you have to target 60 handles to get that 1 to 2. So if you're having like a 10 handle stop loss or a 20 handle stop loss, then you only need to go for around 40-50 handles, and then at that point it's a 1 to 2. It's calm. And then your take profit, I'd simply go for the first presented high. And what I mean by the first presented high is the first high on the 1 minute time frame or the 5 minute time frame that presents a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 3. It's easy as that. You don't need that much when trying to be profitable, because I used to take partials, but if you're taking a partials in a 1 to 2, that's going to completely mess up your RR. Your risk to reward is fucked. What invalidates a silver bullet setup and prevents you from taking the trade? That's an interesting one. Is when price is taken the first 15-minute high. So alright, let's say you're going for, it's kind of hard about the chart. What the fuck? What the fuck was that? So if price is taken, right, let's say you're in for longs. Let's say you're trying to get in for longs, but price has taken a 15-minute high, and we're in the second macro where we've taken a point of London lows. I would not be taking that trade, because for me, that is a valid point of the sweep of liquidity, and there's a chance that price could be running lower. And if there's a high probable chance that price could run lower and run through my stop, why am I taking longs? That doesn't make any sense. So from that point, that would be one thing I'd invalidate the trade. Second point would be if we're not inside macro. So if price goes 1 minute outside macro, or we're 1 minute before macro, I'm not taking that trade. I'm waiting for macro. I don't care if it's an A+ super clean dick and balls setup. I'm not taking that shit, bro. I'm not taking it. I'm waiting for it to be inside macro, and then I'll take the trade. So if it's not inside macro, invalid. Another thing that would invalidate my trade is if there's not a fair value gap on both NQ and ES. If NASDAQ hasn't got a fair value gap, or ES hasn't got a fair value gap, I'm not taking the trade, because it's not clean. It's not clean. There both has to be a fair value gap for it to be a clean setup, in my opinion. I wouldn't take a trade where there's not a fair value gap on both, and then going on from that, there needs to be a market structure shift on both as well. I know people have said that, oh, it is valid if one of them closes above the swing high or the short-term high, whatever you want to call it, if there's a displacement on one of the two, or there's a fair value gap on one of the two. But personally, I want to see a displacement on both and a fair value gap on both, because then there's a even higher chance it will work out. But if you're taking lower probable trades and you really want to focus on getting it right, let's say you're profitable, you're making 40 to 100 racks a month. It's not exactly a big issue. If you're trying to focus on staying disciplined, I would only take trades which are, following a certain checklist, and you're not like switching it up each time. Because if you're like, oh yeah, I don't know if I want to take this trade, and you're getting hesitant, it's going to cause some serious issues. Like, for example, just an example that I'd use, you go off the tap of ES, but it hasn't tapped NQ yet. So obviously, in my strategy, we only trade on NASDAQ, and we use ES to monitor. But if ES has been tapped into, but NQ hasn't, and let's say you take an entry on that, okay, that's fine. But if then next time you're hesitant and you're like, oh, ES has tapped it, but I don't know if I want to get in, that's going to lead to some serious problems. So you need to settle down and say, okay, if ES taps it, I'm in. Or you do what I do, which is I only wait for NQ. I only wait for a tap on NQ, and then I'll take the trade. If it doesn't tap on NQ, I'm not taking the trade. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this Q&A. If you do want more of them, let me know. And you drop a DM in my Instagram, link in the bio, join the free Telegram as well. You can reach me on there, and you can see what we get up to day to day when trading the New York session, or simply drop a comment with questions what you want for next time, and I'll get them answered, boys. So hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.